So, Tsubasa, you have, with the others, been resting for quite a few days at this base on the Kingdom of Corona for a while now. A good 3, 4, 5 days pass, and things just don't happen. So, kind of instinctively, at least for you, even in your anxiety, well medicated as it may be, you've kind of let your mind rest. The last time this happened, you got an oracle vision. But nothing happens. At least not the first day, or the second. But on the third night, something of an odd dream comes to you that you later recognize as a memory. It's one you spoke of with Vince a couple of times, off and on, just as a reference to a previous time that even Vince no longer wants to talk about. A happier time, but also sad in context. You're younger. So is Vince, as you hear him kind of muffling laughter behind you. Your mother has caught on to your schemes, as when you were younger, you were far less inclined to hide the fact that you were doing something shady than simply doing it, though this is precisely as you insist to the chucklefuck behind you. This is why you don't do plans. As your mother goes, okay. I'm not mad. That's not the issue I'm having here. I'm impressed. I'm impressed you're going to such lengths to do something that will inevitably get you hurt, but prove that you have the capability to do so. As your mother, I've been there before. That's how I managed to woo your dad. Not the point. I'm getting off topic. And she starts to go on a little bit of a tangent of that she's not mad at you, she's impressed, she's just a little concerned that the way that you were going about stealing the minute hand of the Traverse Clock Tower, from right under basically a Lord Sid's nose, because he doesn't ever call himself a lord, but the mayor does. And it's a back and forth with her of talking about Sid, how you would have gotten in trouble with him, and then because you got in trouble with Sid, someone else that routinely stays around him would have been around. And then it's about, oh, he's trying to hand stuff over to his granddaughter. And it's just all out of whack. So you stop paying attention and you just turn to face who you know is Vincent from the sound of the laughter. And it's odd. You recognize and know for a very long time that Vincent wasn't always the way that he was now. Of course not. No one starts as a revenant. But every time you're trying to settle on what he looked like before, it's like your mind isn't properly registering any of it. You see the purple hair, or maybe it's a purple shirt. You see the purple eyes, or maybe it's a purple ring. You're not sure, but it's some sort of purple on him that makes you register that it's Vince. Because you can't see his eyes properly, and his hair is a little shorter than it is right now. Probably because he never did like having long hair compared to you and your family. He just visibly turns to look at you and goes, "What? You're the one that's in trouble, not me." I'm laughing because you decided to leave out the plans. And you hear a sigh from a little bit further into the room that you don't remember being there, at least not initially. You instinctively feel the like sheepishness of getting caught twice in the same night, but you don't recall exactly by who. And there's a noise. Uh, the only way I can describe it is hearing static and knowing it's feminine. Do you turn to face it? Of course you do. Because why wouldn't you? This memory is an old one. There's nothing you can do to change it. You turn to face the sound, the voice, the person. But for all you know that it could be a person, you see purple again. Well, at least purple ends. You see wild, unkempt, long purple hair. Well, purple tinted, purple ended. Again, with the you don't know what's supposed to be there and what isn't. And you hear that static again. The sort of unclear, fuzzy feeling in your head of something is supposed to be there. Someone is supposed to be there. And your mind's not registering anything. All you hear is this stern feminine voice that sounds about your age. So much older and wiser, and yet no older than you. And what is your response to it, not knowing what it said? And you hear both Vince and this person laugh. And it's a sort of chuckle of, yeah, she's got a point, you know. She's always got a point, as kind of being my twin. Yeah, the struggles of having a sister, isn't that right? And he says a name. But again, it's that fuzzy, unclear, uncomfortable feeling of having forgotten something by force. And not by a force you agreed to. And his eyes look over at her. And you hear more static, more uncomfortable feeling as in this memory that isn't going to change. Does Tsubasa subconsciously try to remember? Make a wisdom saving throw for me. Mm-hmm. You subconsciously go there's someone else here. I can clearly see the outline. I can clearly see the colors. Why can't I remember them? Why can't I remember her? And Vince? She a twin? He never had a sister. I didn't even know he had much of a family. And you subconsciously push against whatever barrier has been put in your mind and push as this memory continues. But with every push, something else gives. The coloration of his hair that you had known for so long to be purple, long and unkempt on one side and terribly cut on the other, as if he had cut it himself. And you notice that as you look back at Vince, he's a little different. Can you get Ash? He stepped outside 1 foot and she was like, oh no.
It's the force!
But you turn to look at Vince again, and his hair, which you had known for so long to be unkempt and poorly cut as if he had cut it himself, kind of have that messy look to it still, but it's proper and kind of it looks like it's growing in after a like half shave or undercut or something like that. And it's a little bit of a look that he hasn't worn in a long time. But he looks different, more filled in almost. As there's a bit of an uncomfortable laugh as your mother has stopped talking and is just watching you all. Like out of the corner of your eye, you can definitely see that she's keeping an eye on you. But do you keep an eye on Vince, or do you turn to face your mother in this memory? And you kind of notice that she's smiling. She stopped talking a little while ago. She's no longer getting on to you about it. If anything, you heard the last statement she made of, just don't get caught if you're gonna do something stupid. And make sure you have at least one person who knows Cure. And that's when your mind kind of registers the differences that you had somehow forgotten. You see kind of rosy tan skin and shaggy brown hair and kind of dark green eyes in this like almost baggy presentation of somebody who's in casual clothes and is trying to go to sleep for the night but got caught planning with you. Like, literally has bags under his eyes from sleepless nights trying to plan with you and everything. And he just, hey, don't look at me. I am just only learning a couple of spells and none of them are cure. And he turns to face the feminine static like presentation in the back of the room and says that name again. That name you can't hear, can't register, can't remember that he called his twin sister. Roll another wisdom saving throw for me. You, after this subconscious pull and push and resistance from your mind of almost like a trauma break, you feel yourself on one night after this memory concludes sitting up with a gasp as you recall the name, where Vince had always been like open about the fact that his name is Vincent. And just all this, you remember your friends calling this girl who had showed up with Vince a long time ago. You recall her saying her name was Victoria. And she has this long, purple-ended, like blackish gray hair. She's wearing a big scarf that you never see her without. And she has this patterning of an old retro video game that you can't recall the name of anymore, but not for the fact that it's blocked from you, but just because it's not been played in some time, and all the arcades for it kind of got rid of it because it was never played. And she is standing there with her arms crossed, and you finally hear her voice as the green eyes that are much lighter than her brother's go and stare at you. And yeah, I know, Cure, but but You have to take me and Vince alone next time you do something like this. And you hear your mother go, no, 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 not next time. Please don't try to steal the clock tower hand. And you all kind of laugh as your mother is fussing once more about to rant. And I think that's where the first memory concludes. Yeah. And for the record, you are going to be at the bottom of the map for this one, the furthest away from the entrance for the hideout. It is a kind of big map. Because I feel like those 5 in particular would have made something bigger than just a small space that's cramped. You find yourself, and the next night, having broken past your, I guess, mental barrier, so to speak, of the memories, or some of them at least, come flooding back. And you recall the days where you swore it was just the 4 of you. Now it's 5. And there's laughter, and you're much too young to recall if you were supposed to have the, like, you know those, like, 1 or 2% alcohol, like, spritzers? That mean absolutely nothing, but when kids get a hold of them, they think they're drunk? Like, that is what you guys are drinking right now, cheersing to being able to pull off a stunt like this, and celebrating the fact that your studies in school around Traverse and around Twilight, where most of your studies are taking place in Twilight, your primary magic studies are coming from people around Traverse. And you have gotten a bit of a commendation, and you are celebrating it. And Jenna just sighs, half a sigh and half a laugh. You know, it's a lot easier to get a commendation when you aren't acting a fool all the time. Staring pointedly at you, Tsubasa. Don't come on me. It's just like, and then you hear Harley, who is much younger than you all, and is a kind of recent addition to the friend group around this point, about 2 or 3 years, where the rest of you have been childhood friends for much longer. And she just goes, I sure hope not. That seems like an odd thing to do when he's flirting with somebody else. And you hear Victoria just off to the side of you, just the snickering, like hiding her face behind one hand. And she's not sipping one of the spritzes. She's actively avoiding any of it and is drinking fruit punch. As she is far younger than the rest of you by a good number of years. And Vince, from beside you, kind of barking back laughter of just... I mean, you can try and stop her. I've tried. She just says what she wants and says it whenever she feels like. Or get bitten, as Victoria speaks up. And she just makes the gesture of, like, grinning, leaning forward and just bite motion at you. And you hear Jonah set his both of his elbows on the table and just rub at his temples. It's just like, I am the only adult in this area right now. And there's actively an adult in the other room. I'm an adultier adult than you. And technically, yes, I am older than you guys. I am turning 17 next year. And I will be just old enough to get my permit of using magic in the square. And he grins at you. And then you hear Harley speak up with this, oh, please, both of you, girls, you're both pretty. And the entire table just erupts into laughter, even though I'm pretty sure Tsubasa pouts a little bit, kind of playfully. Just the, how dare you, I'm being sassed by a toddler kind of mentality. And you're not sassing back? Shakes my head. But as the laughter calms down, you hear Vince kind of stop leaning back on his chair, like, you know how people would like put a foot up on the table, on the edge of the table, and kind of tilt the chair back? So like, you're gonna fall. Well, when I do, you can tell me I told you so, but until then, shut the fuck up, kind of lean. And he sets both all the feet of the chair on the ground and leans forward. And he's grinning, and this is far past the point where you've developed feelings for him. You're unsure if they're reciprocated or anything because he's never shown his any feelings, but Vince has always been hard to read. And he just goes, so, are we still all in for next year's and he pauses, wondering what to call it. I guess yearly ritual? We didn't get to go this year because, well, none of us had the spare money. This is why we're doing, our celebrations here. And Victoria kind of laughs. The only reason you guys didn't have enough money to go to the beach is because you spent it all at the arcade. Me and Harley could go by ourselves. But it's a yearly tradition for all of us. And it would be Harley's first time, too. And besides, next year apparently is supposed to be a festival, 10-year celebration of full restoration of all the districts. Yeah. And Vince kind of leans on one elbow and looks at the rest of the table. So, how much are we saving and how much overtime are we pulling? And the entire group, including probably you, groans at the idea of doing overtime, especially with Mr. Scrooge. And I think that's where this memory kind of cuts. I need you to play that second song for me. Yeah? I don't see why you would be doing that. I'm innocent. Yeah? You the night after you recall talking about the money situation, wanting to go to the beach, the 10-year anniversary of all the districts being restored, thanks to both the Restoration Committee and the efforts of a certain Sid Highwind, who should have long been dead by now, and no one knows how he isn't. But shortly after, you guys started planning, working along Sid, working along Mr. Scrooge, working alongside other people who would pay a little bit at a time for various cleanup activities and overtime of your usual jobs and putting up flyers for different events and saving up money, painstakingly avoiding the things that you wanted to long term get the thing that you need. And eventually, the next year rolls around, faster than what you're accustomed to, and yet slower all the same. And it's chaotically loud. There's people from all sorts of walks of life. You see a couple of afflicted on site now, and where normally it's all, humans and occasional winged folk that look human. These have horns and tails, and some of them are purely, like, not just dark skinned, but have patches of black or patches of green, grinning with teeth that are shark like or almost vampiric. There's a couple that have fox like tails, and some still that look like they're part cat. It's a cacophony of noise that, from being someone who is lower nobility, you are used to it, but the rest of them seem unbothered, so you don't bring it up. And you're kind of lagging behind. You're kind of taking in the sights, taking in the smells and sensations, and buying a couple of drinks because you know Harley forgot about them in her haste, and she'll never admit that she did. And it's just a lovely day out. But as you're walking, trying to catch up to Vince, someone bumps into you, and your head starts to hurt. And not just in the memory, but altogether, you start to hear static. You start to hear not whispers, but distant screams. It's hard to tell. Do you turn to face the person who bumped into you? You catch a flash of gray and black fabric, a clear distinction between your colorful, summery outfit and their dull, monochromatic black, gray, and white, almost winter outfit. Being near the beach, it would be odd for someone to wear that amount of layers and not get heat stroke. But you see them turn halfway to face you. You can't see their face. Not because there's something covering it, but just because that static is back. And when you try to push, because of course you try to, your head pounds with something that you can't recall as anything other than fear. And in this memory, you do take a step back against what you did that day. Both physically and mentally, you try to pull back. And though this person does not speak, their lips do not move, their jaw does not shift, their smile just widens. And you hear in your head, "I'll see you later." And they turn and leave. And in this memory, you hear Vince cut through the noise of, "Hey, what are you doing? You look like you've seen a ghost." And you turn to face him for a second and then turn back to where that person was. You couldn't even tell if there were feminine figure or a masculine figure, just that they were out of place, normal and unrepentantly average. But you can't seem to recall who they were. And you just shake your head. It doesn't matter, you suppose. Maybe you were just tired. Maybe you have heat exhaustion already, even though you're not wearing many layers. And you just keep walking as Vince looks at you. Did something happen? You know, you can tell me anything. I think I would notice if someone was about to give themselves heat stroke, but I believe you. If you saw it, then they're probably around, meaning we'll probably hear sirens in a little bit here. It's as if they weren't ever there. You cannot recall where you saw them, only that they bumped into you. Yeah, come on. And he gestures to follow him over to where some of the trees are resting against the planters where they have kind of broken out of, and the rest of them are rushing towards the shoreline. And even Victoria seems excited, though she's always been the stoic one and yet easy to read, where the expressive one is impossible to judge. And you smile instinctively. The thought of what was said to you, whatever person might have been there. For the longest of times, that memory just seems peaceful. But now you realize something was wrong with it. Because that was the last summer vacation you ever had with your friends. And that's what we're in. Mhm.